Full stop. Want the game to be viable and we want the product to be great. So at the moment, after all of the hard work that has been done, after all of the investment that has been put in to the women's game, after all of the efforts that have been carried out by our female players to get the game to where it's at and the support that they've had across the board, we're back to square one. There is no game. We've got a coach who's driving to work to pick up the phone and introduce himself to players. Is that not alarming, as Sowie says? AFL sitting there waiting. Rugby union sitting there waiting. I'm pretty sure that you could pick up the phone to the AFL competition right now who've got 18 teams, and yes, they've had their struggles with expansion and we don't want to lose players. But you know what they can offer? A contract, a competition, clarity around what happens when you get pregnant. I mean, this is alarming stuff. And it is a result of where they're at entirely with the Rugby League Players Association negotiations around the CBA. And they're all in it together. But the fact of the matter is that the women's game that has been built up so much, we have the World Cup champions, the most dominant team in the world. Everything is there. Pathways have been created. All of this work's been done. The dual seasons that we had last year, the pick ourselves up and get going again after COVID. All of that at the moment has gone backwards at a rate of knots because there's zero. And it's got to be a major concern. It has to be a huge concern for the NRL, for the players themselves, for the Players Association as to where this is at. Because when I was listening to that this morning, I thought, hang on a second, am I listening to a park footy coach here? Oh, we're scrambling to get a team together. I don't even know if I'm going to have enough players. I ran into a coach the other day. We sort of went and watched a match. I mean, what's next? Chook raffles to get us back up and running again? Dragging the game back another 10, 15, 20 years? It's got to a stage where it's at the forefront of rugby league itself. The women's game's been extraordinary. Numbers have been terrific. State of Origin's there. I called the grand final out at Sydney Olympic Park ahead of the men's grand final. It was fantastic. It was a great atmosphere and a great spectacle. And our female players deserve a lot more than what they're getting at the moment, which is nothing. And here we have a coach who's doing no better at the moment than park footy coaches. I mean, I would struggle to think of another coach who could say to you in rugby league, hey, guess what? We're playing this week, under 14s. Yeah, I've got enough players, right? We know where we're going. We're going to load up into the car. Everyone got the jumpers? Yep. Everyone got the boots? Yep. We got a referee? Yep. No problems. We got somewhere to play? Yep. Women don't have any of that. None of it. And it's both sides of the board. So who's worried the most here? Is the Rugby League Players Association worried about where they're at, which is nowhere? Is the NRL, which has been working so hard to push the women's game, worried about where it's at, which is nowhere? Are the players themselves worried about their future as professional athletes or part-time professional athletes in the game that they obviously love? Or do they start looking around? And the other point that Sowie made very clear, and it's been lost, I think, in all of this debate around how they try and get back to the table and get everything going, is that when the deal's done, because there will be a deal, it's going to happen quickly. So you'll go from 0 to 0 in a flash. And then what happens if you're a coach like Jamie Soward? How on earth do you try and strategize around that with the 4 extra teams? Bingo, we've now got ourselves a deal. Right, pick up the phone. Let's try and get our players on the line. How do we get them started? The competition's just around the corner. Now they know what's going on. Holy guacamole. This is heading towards a bit of a train wreck. It's a worrying situation that they're in. We all know it's not ideal, and we all hope that they can get to the end of the line here and get a deal done. But that jumped out at me this morning. Did it jump out at you that it's the state of the game in that game has been pushing so hard and has been forging its way through in the sporting landscape at a rate of knots off the back of a heck of a lot of hard work across the board, is now in complete and utter limbo. Something's got to give. To 10 years, all of that work to push this sport and push the women's side of the game as hard as we've been pushing it, all of that work is in danger of being undone in a flash.